My experience was very much like him in the movie, that eternal, most scariest thing of all, the blank page. You know, that's what Misery is also about. It's about the, writer's block and the blank page, and oh my God, how am I going to fill this up? And so there I was, the first thing I'd ever written like that, totally in the same state as the character in the movie. I've always had a knack for putting music to something, whether it's playing funny music when someone walks in the door at a party or at a meeting. That's just something I've always felt comfortable with. Actually, that's a whole other thing, that I'm an accompanist, and I'm a good accompanist, I can say that, really following a singer. And to me, that's how I approach movie scoring. The movie is a singer, and I'm just finding the right counter melodies and chords and rhythms and textures that give a nice foundation. The music in that first scene is saying, she's out there. And he thinks he's finishing this book, and it's a celebration for him, but the music is letting us know, she's out there. She's watching you. You're under her, you're in her crystal ball. When you're writing a film score, you may find that a character does get a melody, or gets more than a melody, gets a few melodies for different kind of moods, or certain instruments that help conjure up. Like in Misery, there's this little, it almost seems like kids are going, Annie, Annie. There was one cue where she talks about her love for Misery, where we hear that theme again, and we understand it, as you pointed out. We understand it's kind of like a romance novel theme, but it's just a little off-center.
Oh, Paul, I've read everything of yours, but the Misery novels, I know them all by heart, all 8 of them. I love them so.
So we, at that point, start to see, okay, she loves this, and she loves the romance in the books, and so we understand her at the level we've met her so far, and we see that it's a little off-center, but we're with her almost. We're with her as she describes it. Then in that next cue, when she gets angry about the character's cursing in his new novel, and what I called a hornet's nest. Now, meanwhile, I'd never written that kind of music before. I'd seen it and heard it in movies. So I'm in there on the piano, with a piano that has like a string sound in it. I'm just starting to learn how to use all these synthesizers and equipment that had just started really coming into their own at the time I started scoring movies. So I'm just kind of like twirling, and even Rob had to have a lot of faith that meanwhile, I had a lot of faith in myself too, that this little twirling on the piano could become that kind of hornet's nest.
What do you think I say when I go to the feed store in town? Oh, now, Wally, give me a bag of that effing pig feed and 10 pounds of that bitchly cow corn. And in the bank, do I tell Mrs. Bollinger, oh, here's one big bastard of a check. Give me some of your Christing money. There, look there. See what you made me do?
Rob has his team, and then I have my team. I have orchestrators and people who take the computer and print out the music that I have written onto the computer, but they have to really know their job and know, because the computer, if you just print it out, it looks like a glob of mess. I mean, they have to know, oh, the computer thought that was a 64th note, which doesn't even really exist. It just meant I hit an 8th note staccato. So they have to look at that music and give that to the orchestrator, but it takes them hours to analyze it and be musicians themselves and know, oh, that's just a short 8th note. The times with the orchestra are definitely my favorite time. Not because I get to hear them play my music. That, you actually, believe it or not, do get kind of almost blasé about. It's the camaraderie in that room, in the studio with the orchestra. And me, I'm a big ham, so it's like this audience. It's like, oh, good, scoring week. The only really good thing about it, because it's usually filled with such tension, is I'm going to get to like tell jokes and stories to the orchestra. I love that. No one could ever imagine how many times a movie is viewed over and over again as you're working. Even just the last final dub of a movie. No one would ever believe how long it took to perfect the sound of a door opening just the right way. And the variations that the sound designer will bring to the ways that door can sound, and how that works in with the actor's reaction and music, and how the different, exact same sound played at a different level can affect it, or in music also. That's one thing I learned on Misery. One thing I learned in the temp score of Misery and other films after that was that not all music underneath a scene has to be just big open whole notes. You can get movement and motion going on in there if you know that it's going to be placed at a certain volume. I've often gone to a dub of a movie and said, please turn that down. I didn't mean for that to be so loud. I guess I should say thank you, but please, no, you're not. No, because now it sounds like, oh, he really went overboard. But if you keep it just at that sweet spot, it works.
When I mentioned a snack, I was thinking more along the lines of cheese and crackers kind of thing.
Paul, this is no time for jokes. You must rid the world of this filth.
And, you know, there's that whole big chase scene in Misery where he hears her car coming and he's got to race back. Actually, first there's a moment where he's touring the house. It's the first time I got to compose that kind of orchestral, textural music. It's not following any tempo. It's just he's taking in her house and all the different little quirky little things she has on the shelf, or what books she has. And that has to sustain itself for a long time. And that's the other hard part in film scoring, something I still get scared about, sustaining a mood without feeling like you're adding to, perhaps in a bad way, slowing the pace down, or boredom by repeating or being too repetitious. Luckily, I had all this new-fangled computer synthesizer equipment, and I couldn't play it on piano in real time, what I was hearing in my head. So I just played like, I knew I wanted these kind of angular harmonies, and I just played really slow. Boom, boom, dun, 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 practically pecking out just things I knew that would be discordant, and just kind of did it for a few measures. I thought, okay, this is just an experiment. Lord knows what I'm going to really do. But now let's see what this is like sped up. On that cue in particular, though, I remember it was one of the first moments at a scoring session where it was like, oh no, where I can't remember the specifics, but something about once she's kind of she's approaching, walking up the steps of the house, and like the last third of the cue is like the third telling, so to speak, of that basic motif of the getting back to the room. It happens once, then there's a moment where he goes down the hallway and it happens again, and then she's getting in, and then it happens again in the final third. And I think that it was maybe the way we had orchestrated it was slightly different than how it had been orchestrated the first two times with the strings. Maybe like the woodwinds did it more or something. I can't really remember, but Rob didn't like it. Like, no, it's gotta be like it was before. And like, oh, geez. And I didn't, at that point, I wasn't learned enough to know, hey, you know what, we can come back to this tomorrow. Let me take this home and fix it tonight. And there is a lot of film scoring where you do have to do it on the spot. In retrospect, I probably would have loved to have had it overnight to fix it, because the fastest way to do what he asked was to literally just tell the musicians, go back to there and play those 16 bars or whatever, but all the booms and baps were matching that other moment. And so it was off. It wasn't really hitting things. But at that point, we learned, watching the movie now, I can hardly even remember what it was I was so nuts that I was losing. It still kind of works. Maybe it's even better. It's not quite hitting the cut. It's hitting here or there. It's still adding to the tension, and it worked.
Did I do good?
At last cue, I felt, boy, what am I going to do? And I literally sat there and started just banging the piano, just watching the scene and banging the piano like a child, but banging it with a theatricality of what was going on in the movie. But once again, I was just sort of banging and then taking my banging and making it notes. And then when we put it in front of the orchestra, they were like, did their thing where they're like, oh, Mark, is this 12-tone? Or they were asking me all this sorts of questions like, oh, I see you studied the work of Schoenberg and Berg. And I was like, no, I was just banging the piano.
Goodness gracious! Oh, my!
Oh, goodness. Heavens to Betsy. Oh, goodness. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and that's the other odd thing about scoring a movie is all these people who have worked on the film, and you're collaborating with them so intimately. You have to be so in concert with that actor's emotions, and you have to be able to read their facial tics and mannerisms, and often that'll become, oh, let's put that harp glist, let it bring us into the next moment as his eyes hit just a certain moment where you realize he's thinking about something else. It's just an endless collaboration. And of course, as you said, with the cinematographer and then the editor, how they have chosen their point of views and where to edit the film. And then you have to work in concert with them as if you've all been in the same room together. And that's the glory of a movie when you've done it well, when everyone's done their job well. It's seamless. You don't know whose idea this was or where one stopped and the other began. That's a glorious concert, this bizarre concert, as opposed to when the musicians are in a room playing together. The collaborators on a film almost are never in the same room together.
I thought you were over it.
I don't know if anyone could ever totally get over something like that.
It's weird. Even though I know she's dead, I still think about her once in a while.
Excuse me, I don't mean to bother you, but are you Paul Sheldon?
Yes.
I just want to tell you I'm your #1 fan.
I always wanted to, I guess, write Broadway musicals. And then film scoring, when it happened, it practically just kind of fell on my lap. But Misery certainly started me on that road. And of course, for Rob and for that movie, I'm just grateful because it changed my life.